The New York City Draft Riots of 1863 revealed the profound consequences of unchecked economic inequality and racial tension, underscoring the necessity of addressing systemic injustices to maintain social stability. These events serve as a stark reminder that societal progress depends on equitable treatment and opportunities for all. "1863 remains a poignant and sobering year in American history, illustrating the tumultuous and often violent intersections of race, class, and politics during the Civil War era. The New York City Draft Riots remain one of the most significant and violent civil disturbances in American history. These riots, which erupted over several days in mid-July, were catalyzed by the implementation of the first federal draft in the United States, a measure designed to bolster Union Army numbers in a war that was increasingly demanding in both human and material resources. At the heart of the unrest was the Conscription Act of 1863. This act required all male citizens aged 20 to 45 to register for the draft. The act's most contentious provision allowed wealthier individuals to avoid conscription by paying a $300 commutation fee or hiring a substitute. This clause starkly highlighted and exacerbated class divisions, as the working class, who could neither afford to pay the fee nor hire substitutes, felt unfairly burdened. To them, the war seemed to demand disproportionate sacrifices from the poor while sparing the rich, fueling widespread resentment and anger. The Civil War had wrought significant economic disruption. Inflation soared, and job competition intensified as businesses adapted to the war economy. Many white workers, particularly recent immigrants, feared that the end of slavery would lead to an influx of freed black individuals migrating north and competing for scarce jobs. These economic anxieties were fertile ground for racial tensions, as white workers saw black Americans as direct threats to their livelihoods. Such sentiments were stoked by inflammatory rhetoric from politicians and media opposed to the Republican-led war effort and the abolitionist cause. New York City, with its strong economic ties to the southern states and substantial support for the Democratic Party, was a hotbed of political tension. The city's Democratic leaders and newspapers were vocal critics of President Abraham Lincoln and the Republican administration's handling of the war, including the draft and the Emancipation Proclamation. These political divisions contributed to an atmosphere ripe for conflict, as anti-war and anti-draft sentiments simmered just below the surface. The riots began on July 13, 1863, when the names of the first draftees were drawn. What started as a protest quickly escalated into a full-blown riot. Working-class men, incensed by the inequities of the draft system, swelled into a mob that numbered in the thousands. They vented their fury on symbols of federal authority and wealth. The rioters targeted government buildings and draft offices, setting them ablaze and destroying records. Wealthy citizens, perceived as beneficiaries of the commutation clause, were also attacked. However, the most tragic and telling aspect of the riots was the directed violence against black New Yorkers. Rioters blamed the black community for the war and the draft, seeing them as scapegoats for their economic and social frustrations. Black individuals were lynched, their homes and businesses looted and burned. One of the most horrific incidents was the destruction of the Colored Orphan Asylum, which housed over 200 children, forcing them to flee for their lives. The chaos continued unabated until federal troops, including regiments that had just fought at the Battle of Gettysburg, were deployed to restore order. By July 16th, the military's presence and decisive action had quelled the riots, but the city was left in a state of shock and mourning. The aftermath of the riots was devastating. Estimates of casualties vary, but it is believed that between 119 and over 1,200 people were killed, with many more injured. The property damage was extensive, running into millions of dollars, with entire neighborhoods devastated. The riots significantly deepened racial animosities in New York City. The violence forced many black residents to flee the city or relocate to safer neighborhoods. The trust between black and white communities, already fragile, was further eroded, leaving lasting scars on the social fabric of the city. Politically, the draft riots exposed the vulnerabilities on the Union's home front. They demonstrated that the northern states were not immune to the same kind of internal strife that plagued the Confederacy. The riots forced political and military leaders to rethink strategies and highlighted the need for better protection and integration of black communities in northern cities. The draft riots underscored the deep roots of racial tensions in the United States, tensions that have evolved but persist to this day. The violence of 1863 was a manifestation of fears and prejudices that are still visible in modern racial dynamics. The scapegoating of black individuals during the riots mirrors contemporary instances where minority communities are blamed for broader social and economic issues. This historical episode highlights the ongoing struggle for racial equality and justice in America. The economic anxieties that fueled the riots also have modern parallels. Today, economic disparities and job competition continue to stoke racial tensions. The legacy of the draft riots reminds us that addressing economic inequality is crucial to mitigating racial discord. Policies aimed at economic justice and equal opportunity are essential to fostering a more balanced society. The class resentment that fueled the draft riots is another relevant aspect of their legacy. The wealthy's ability to avoid conscription by paying a fee highlighted the inequities of the time. Today, economic disparity remains a critical issue, with more affluent individuals often accessing better resources and opportunities. The draft riots serve as a historical reminder of the need for policies that promote economic fairness and reduce class divisions. The political tensions that exacerbated the riots are also mirrored in today's polarized political climate. The draft riots were fueled by deep political divisions with significant opposition to the federal government's policies. Today, political polarization continues to divide communities, making it challenging to address complex social issues collaboratively. The legacy of the draft riots underscores the importance of finding common ground and fostering dialogue across political divides. Despite the violence and destruction, the draft riots also highlight the resilience and solidarity of affected communities. In the aftermath, Black New Yorkers and their allies worked to rebuild and support each other. This spirit of resilience is a powerful legacy, inspiring modern movements for racial justice and community support. It serves as a reminder that, even in the face of adversity, communities can come together to advocate for change and support one another. The New York City Draft Riots of 1863 were a profound and tragic episode in American history, illustrating the dangerous interplay of race, class, and politics. The riots not only exposed the deep-seated divisions within Northern society during the Civil War, but also left a legacy that continues to inform contemporary discussions on race relations, economic disparity, and political polarization. As we reflect on the riots, it is essential to recognize the historical context and draw lessons that can help build a more just and equitable society today.